Welcome to this explainer. If you've ever felt that absolute sinking anxiety right before handing over thousands of dollars to a web design agency, well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to transform you from an anxious buyer into a confident interrogator. We're using some fantastic insights from the experts over at Viral Chili to walk through their ultimate playbook for vetting an Elementor web design agency, just to make absolutely sure your next big digital investment actually pays off.
Okay, let's just dive right into this. 53%. Wrap your head around that number for a second. That is the staggering reality of mobile visitors who will just completely abandon your site if it takes over 3 seconds to load. 3 seconds! That's literally all the grace period you get before your potential customers bounce and head straight over to your competitors. No pressure, right?
So that brings us to part 1, the stakes and exactly why your choice of agency matters so much. Look, your website isn't just some pretty piece of digital art to hang on the wall. It is a business engine. Honestly, it's your top performing salesperson. So to build it right, we're going to use a 6-step interrogation toolkit. We'll be looking at experience, speed, support, communication, SEO, and the pricing model. This is all designed to guarantee you find the perfect partner before you ever sign on that dotted line. All right, question number 1. What is your experience with projects similar to mine? Now, you aren't just asking for a resume here. It's a bit of a subtextual test. You're looking for concrete proof that they can anticipate and actually solve your specific industry challenges, before those challenges turn into very expensive problems. When you drop this question, you want them to immediately point to, say, 3 to 5 highly relevant case studies. Are you building an e-commerce site? A membership platform? Well, they need to show they've built those exact features right there within the Elementor ecosystem. If they hesitate to show you past work, or if you get kind of vague, dodging answers, run. That is a massive red flag. The best agencies out there take immense pride in showing off their results. Okay, so once you know they've got the chops, you need to ask, how do you approach website performance and speed? Because let's be honest, a gorgeous site is completely useless if it runs like a turtle in a marathon. Performance has got to be built into the architecture from day one. It's definitely not something you can just bolt on at the very end and hope for the best. Just think about this wild data point for a second. For every 100 milliseconds of load time, you lose approximately 1% in conversions. 100 milliseconds, a literal blink of an eye, is costing you actual sales. This just goes to show that settling for cheap, bloated code is incredibly expensive for your business in the long run. So you really need to listen closely for technical specifics here. You don't just want to hear, oh, we'll install a caching plugin. No way. Listen for terms like minimizing DOM bloat to keep the code super clean, lazy loading images, optimizing CSS, and leveraging content delivery networks. You absolutely want to know that they are actively performance testing during the development phase, not just crossing their fingers after launch. But what happens after the big launch? You've got to ask, do you provide ongoing support and maintenance? Because a website doesn't just stay healthy all on its own. You need to uncover if this agency plans to completely vanish into thin air the second your site goes live, leaving you totally stranded when a random WordPress security patch eventually breaks your entire layout. So the crucial point here is this. You need a partner who offers a really clearly defined post-launch support plan. Whether it's a retainer for quick response times on urgent issues, regular security patching, or even access to a trusted white label support partner. You need an ongoing care package to keep your site fast and secure long after launch day. Which naturally leads us to the communication factor. How do you handle client communication and project management? The real subtext here, you're basically finding out if they're going to take your deposit and then completely ghost you for 3 weeks during the absolute most critical, stressful part of the build. A truly professional agency won't rely on, messy, endless email chains. They're going to use robust project management tools like Asana, Monday, or Basecamp. Plus, they'll have strictly defined boundaries for things like revision rounds, usually 2 or 3, and very specific rules for what happens when the scope of the project changes. That kind of structure is exactly what prevents those nasty budget-busting surprises. All right, but even the fastest, best-managed site needs traffic, right? Which brings us to, what is your approach to SEO and accessibility? Remember, a beautiful site means absolutely nothing if literally no one can find it. SEO isn't just some magical dust you sprinkle on at the very end. It's got to be fundamentally woven into the site's entire architecture right from the very first wireframe. Your agency should be optimizing meta tags and structuring pages for search engines from day one. And crucially, they also need to perform WCAG compliance testing. That's the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. To ensure compatibility for screen readers, Google heavily favors accessible sites with clean code. So if your agency skips accessibility, they are quite literally leaving money on the table for you. Finally, we arrive at the ultimate deciding factor. Can you explain your pricing model and what is actually included? Let me just warn you right now, extreme bargains in the web design world are almost always a trap. Complete transparency in pricing is absolutely everything. You're really looking at the classic dilemma here, the bargain shop build versus the mid-range value partner. The bargain shop quotes a ridiculously low price, sure, but they do it by completely cutting corners and sacrificing performance. Meanwhile, the high-value partner might cost a bit more upfront, but they build in the SEO, the clean code, and that ongoing communication that actually drives a real return on your investment. Moving right along to Section 2, Red Flags and Common Hiring Traps.
When budget anxiety takes over, people fall into these totally predictable psychological traps. Far too many choose an agency based on price alone, without even glancing at the portfolio. They skip the vital discovery conversation and somehow expect the designers to just magically read their minds. And worst of all, they assume that a pretty design automatically equals fast performance. But as we've learned, poor back-end coding can completely tank a site's speed, no matter how stunning those front-end graphics look.
Let's head into Section 3, a reality check on timelines and costs. Let's set some grounded expectations for your upcoming project. Typically, a standard build schedule runs about 4 to 8 weeks. Week 1, that's your kickoff and strategy. Weeks 2 and 3 handle all the content and design approvals. Then you get into the real heavy lifting of development and revisions in weeks 4 through 7, which culminates in a final launch around week 8. The one big caveat here, highly complex e-commerce integrations can easily push this timeline out to 3 to 6 months.
Based on some really solid industry standards highlighted by the folks at Viral Chili, pricing is totally going to vary by complexity. A basic brochure site generally falls somewhere between $2,000 and $5,000. A custom business site with specific functionality will probably run you $5,000 to $15,000. And for those complex e-commerce builds, you're looking at $25,000 and up. The big takeaway here, always get multiple quotes and closely compare what is actually included, not just that bottom line number. The experts at Viral Chili sum this whole thing up just perfectly. A quality Elementor web design agency proves its worth through results, not promises. Doing your due diligence, asking these really tough questions, and expecting hard evidence over sweet talk, that is the absolute best way to truly protect your digital investment. Which leaves us with one final thought for you to chew on. Are you ready to stop just hoping for a good website and start interrogating for a great one? Take this playbook, ask those hard questions, and go build an incredible digital engine for your business. Thanks for exploring this explainer with me today, and I'll catch you next time.